Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. So wanted to go live for you guys and gals one more time today as we got a little bit of buzz here around Jeff Hafley. It seems like things are really heating up with Jeff Hafley potentially being interviewed by multiple teams. I know we've already talked about the Giants. We've done a nice show earlier today, kind of breaking down how it would make sense for him to go to the Dolphins if John Eric Sullivan joins the organization down there as the new general manager, obviously coming from Green Bay. But man, now there's multiple teams that's being reported that are in hot pursuit of Jeff Hafley, at least to set up an interview. We'll talk about that. Also, Dan Orlovsky gives his take on Packers Bears. We'll hear that soundbite as well as dive into the updated injury report. We got all kinds of information coming out of the final injury report before this matchup here on Saturday night between the Packers and the Bears. Before we get into all that, if you would do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your day. We're not experts. We're not insiders. We're not media members. We're fans just like you talking Packers on a daily basis. So if you look for that type of content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and click the bell icon. I know we caught everybody off guard, didn't give anybody any notice on this live stream. Got a lot of stuff going on around here at the house, so I just wanted to dive into it real quick. So let's waste no time and get into the latest report here. And it's getting really interesting with Jeff Hafley, man. I got to be honest. It's something that you want to get some of these interviews scheduled and you want to get the interest out there, obviously, right off the bat. But to me, it just feels like a lot of teams are going to be after Jeff Hafley. And it's a little bit surprising because there's all kinds of other candidates out there that really their defenses had better numbers this year. Same thing with offense. You know, you got some of the top offensive minds in the game. Granted, all these teams are still in the playoffs, but the reason that it's a little surprising to me that more people are pursuing Jeff Hafley is because these other coaches are in the playoffs as well. Right. And it's like it's a little bit quiet on some of the Clint Kubiak stuff and things like that. Now, maybe they're keeping their cards close to the vest. And this is those early kind of, all right, let's go ahead. Let's let this guy know. Let's let Jeff Hafley know we're interested, even though our top candidate might be on down the road. Who knows? But as everything unfolds, obviously, we'll dive into it. Here was the latest. So Albert Breer tweeted this out earlier today. The Falcons, Cardinals, and Titans have put in requests to interview Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley for their head coaching job per sources. Hafley can't interview until next week with Green Bay going to Chicago on Saturday. So they have to wait at least another week, right, before they could potentially interview Jeff Hafley. And I don't think that means they have to be eliminated in order to interview. I think you can interview while you're still on a team. You guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat unless that rule has changed. But there's something to do with if the playoff teams, they have to wait at least until after the wild card round, maybe before the interviewing process can start. I know Jeff Hafley had an awesome mic drop moment in his presser earlier today. If you guys didn't see that, watch the show from earlier today here on the channel. And we kind of played that clip for you all and talked about that, where he's like, hey, look, we'll see you guys next week. We're not going to be done after this week. So he's obviously fired up to be a part of the Packers organization, at least for the time being. But let's talk about these three teams real quick. Falcons, Cardinals, Titans. What kind of assets do each of these teams have, right? The Falcons seem to have, they feel good about Michael Penix Jr., right? That young quarterback that they drafted. So at least for the foreseeable future, you like the way you said it's a quarterback position, you know. When you come in as a head coach, you kind of look at some of these things, right? You're, okay, if you had to choose between these three teams, which one has the most stable quarterback? You've got with the Atlanta Falcons, right? You've gotten Michael Penix Jr., all right, yeah. Whatever you would grade him, let's say, all right, so there's a solid young quarterback that you got a lot of hope for, I would imagine. The Cardinals is really, really interesting, right? Because they pretty much ended up benching Kyler Murray, and it sounds like they may potentially move on from him at the end of the year. However, if you bring in a new head coach, let them come in, evaluate, sit down with Kyler Murray and see, hey, is this a guy that we want to work with moving forward? So to me, that's a little shakier, in my opinion, at the quarterback position than Atlanta. And I'm not saying that Michael Penix Jr. is a dog or anything like that. I mean, I think he's got potential. I think he showed quick release. I think he showed accuracy, all those things without diving into the numbers, just kind of, catching the highlights here and there of the Atlanta Falcons games, right? Obviously, we don't key on them too much. But I kind of like the quarterback position in Atlanta a little bit better than what has happened down there in Arizona with Kyler Murray. And listen, the Kyler Murray experience, I've been pretty vocal about this if you've watched the show for the last 3 years, however long we've been on YouTube and with the podcast a little bit longer. Kyler Murray's one of those dudes, man. He's got a ton of talent, but, the reports that you hear coming out of there, he doesn't like to study football, right? With the whole video game thing and the double XP weekends. Shout out Emilio. I know Emilio's all about the double XP weekends. And also, just kind of seeing him interact with the teammates and stuff. There's been former GMs like Michael Lombardi and others that are like, man, he just doesn't look like a natural born leader. It doesn't look like it means that much to him, right? Michael Penix Jr., maybe it's the same boat. I don't think it is. I feel like it's a little bit more like Michael Penix Jr. It's more of a football guy, right? So I would put the Falcons slightly ahead of the Cardinals in that regard. And you go to the Titans, and they just use the number 1 overall pick on Cam Ward, right? And of course, to me, Cam Ward showed flashes. Now he's got to get a good OC in there and a good system that's going to accelerate his growth, right? And add a little, shine a little more light of positivity on the skill set that he has. But what sucks about the Cam Ward situation is he gets hurt in the very last game of the year. I haven't heard the updates on how serious that was. Is that something that's going to linger into the offseason and slow down the training progress there, right? So with all that being said, Jeff Hafley is a defensive-minded coach, so maybe he wants to look at these teams and go, okay, which team is best well-built to play defense? In my opinion, it's probably the Falcons. Then the Cardinals second, Titans third. Titans were a pretty bad football team this year, if I remember correctly, right? So all that taken into consideration, you also got to think the New York Giants, right? There's been rumors that Jeff Hafley might be interested in the Giants. They may be interested in him. Now, when John Harbaugh was fired, obviously, it seemed like the Giants got really excited about wanting to interview Harbaugh. He's going to put that off until next week. So that's holding that up a bit. Or else, honestly, if the Giants could interview for Harbaugh, I think that they would hire him immediately is kind of the vibe I get. But he's slowing that process down to see if maybe one of these playoff teams get absolutely blown out in the playoffs and it's a better situation. They overreact, fire their coach, and he can step right into a situation where you got a playoff bound team and maybe a few more resources there. So there's a lot of these dominoes that have to fall into place, and that's probably not going to happen until after next week. But again, that was another team that was mentioned. We mentioned Miami earlier, right? With the Miami Dolphins firing Mike McDaniel, and you've got John Eric Sullivan, the Packers executive, who is set to interview. I think he was supposed to interview today for that job. He was one of 3 outside candidates, along with their interim general manager. And if John Eric Sullivan goes there, now you want to add Jeff Hafley to the list on Miami. So you're talking about 5-6 teams is what we're kind of hearing that's interested in Jeff Hafley. If he gets interviews at all 5 or 6 of these stops before they hire someone, and that's a big if, obviously. Some teams want to jump the gun. They fall in love with the candidate and hire him right away. But if he gets a chance to interview, I think he's going to knock the interview out of the park. We kind of talked about that earlier today. But again, just want to bring you the updated information here with the fact that the Falcons, Cardinals, and Titans have already put in requests to interview Jeff Hafley for their head coaching job. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that unfolds. Now, just some other coaching news before we move to Packers Bears and kind of give you guys an update on the injury report. We talked about earlier today, we'd love to see Mike McDaniel. I would love to see Mike McDaniel in Green Bay. He's really, really good friends with Matt LaFleur, and I think it would make a lot of sense to get him in-house. I would prefer Mike McDaniel as my offensive coordinator over Adam Stenavich. I would still like to keep Adam Stenavich, but have him be the offensive line guru. We talked about it earlier. If you missed that show, you can go back and watch it right here on the channel. So I really like the idea of Mike McDaniel potentially coming in. Well, that's not the only team interested in Mike McDaniel as an OC, as the Lions have reached out to former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel, per Ian Rappaport over on X, about their vacant offensive coordinator position. Sources say McDaniel is a top candidate for any OC job. So again, this is a guy, if there's any offensive coordinator spots open, and you're probably going, Clayton, how many OC spots are open? Every head coaching job vacancy is going to have an OC, potential attached to it. Now, with the exception of Miami, it's very rare that a guy would get, if it ever has happened in the NFL, a guy would get fired as a head coach and then brought back as a coordinator, right? So X them out, feel pretty confident saying he would not end up back there. So you're talking about, 6 or 7 spots, including the Lions, that he could potentially land as the OC. So there's going to be a very, very hot market for Mike McDaniel. And don't rule out Mike McDaniel getting head coaching interviews as well. I think that's going to be something that's on the slate also. So again, man, what sucks about this, and I see the chat already reacting. We got Stephanie in here says, "Damn Lions." Yeah, this would suck if he ended up with the Detroit Lions. Right now, with that being said, I think we would all agree that if the Packers were willing to match whatever the Lions are willing to offer for that offensive coordinator job, I believe Mike McDaniel would choose Matt LaFleur's, team over, say a Dan Campbell. Not that he doesn't like Dan Campbell, but we know how close Mike McDaniel and Matt LaFleur are. So again, with that being said, I could see him choosing Green Bay over Detroit if the money was the same, the perks were the same, everything was across the board. Yes, it's even Steven across the board. You ain't even got to give an extra dollar. If it's the same amount of money, he would come to Green Bay and be the offensive coordinator for Matt LaFleur. Now, if you're hearing this and you're thinking, Clayton, Matt's not getting rid of Adam Stenavich at OC, I can understand that too. I think that's a very, very valid point. I think there's a good chance that we've shown Matt is fiercely loyal to his assistants, and that's why they love him as a coach, and that's why they go to bat for him the same as he goes to bat for them. So with that being said, I wouldn't be surprised if Steno stays put, and we don't try to create some kind of co-offensive coordinator, or maybe you let Rich Bisaccia go and you hire Mike McDaniel as a assistant head coach, but he's involved in the run game, make him the run game coordinator, something like that. The thing that you've got on your side here, and again, this is a big if Matt would be willing to demote Adam Stenavich, but if he does demote Adam Stenavich, I don't think there's going to be a long line of teams, lined up around the door looking to hire Adam Stenavich as their offensive coordinator, right? So I don't think you really risk losing him. And if you did lose him, what have you actually lost, right? I think a perfect scenario would be bringing somebody like Mike McDaniel in to get your run game back on track, and then moving Steno back to offensive line coach where he did so well for so long. So again, that was just an update from earlier today. And then one last little nugget of news here is Cliff Kingsbury, as Pro Football Talk tweeted out, Ravens and the Titans want to interview Cliff Kingsbury for the head coaching job. Obviously, Cliff Kingsbury was the former head coach for the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler Murray. He got fired. He goes to Washington, becomes the OC there, led Washington to the playoffs last year with Jaden Daniels, had an awesome rookie year. This year, they missed the playoffs. There's been some guys getting fired there, obviously. So it looks like Cliff Kingsbury might be back in the market to get a head coaching job as well. So you need to keep an eye on that, because obviously Ravens, Titans are one of the teams that would potentially be interested in Jeff Hafley. So again, anytime a team has someone with maybe a little more experience, it might be a little more appealing to them than Jeff Hafley. That's great news for us Packer fans. So with that being said, let us know what you think in the comments. How do you feel about Jeff Hafley potentially going to those 3 spots? Are you worried about him leaving? Do you think he's going to stay in Green Bay? Let us know in the comments how you feel. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you get buzzed every time we get ready to go live here in the future. Now let's move along a little Packers, Bears talk. This is it's going to be an awesome game. We've talked about it a little bit already. We're going to do an extensive deep dive probably tomorrow. I'd like to get the guys together if we can and just kind of do a big deep dive on that. But everybody over at First Take has already started talking about this one. And Dan Orlovsky had an interesting take here earlier today. So what I'm going to do is play the audio in the background for you guys and gals. I want you to listen to what former NFL quarterback Dan Orlovsky had to say about this Packers-Bears matchup on First Take. Again, this audio courtesy of ESPN and First Take. Here's what Dan Orlovsky had to say.
No, I do not. I think the Packers win. I think the Packers win handily. I'll ask you, because it's a study of yours. Give me one thing Chicago does well defensively outside
Turn
of
the football over.
Outside of get the ball over.
And it doesn't matter. You can't take.
It's a great point. It's a great point. You hear Ryan Clark laughing and trying to shrug it off. Name one thing that Chicago's defense does good other than take the ball away. Now, listen, that's a big good, right? Big good. Well, it sounds very uneducated, right? If you could take the ball away, that's the most important stat. Don't get me wrong. But outside of that, they don't stop the run well. They don't play the pass well. They're not gap sound in terms of the run fits. There's a lot of things they do really, really bad. And I've said it all year long, man. we can't call it lucky anymore. They continue to take the ball away, but doesn't it feel like Chicago's taking the ball away the way the Packers took it away last year? Going into this season, we had a conversation about this in the late off season, where I said, and I caught a little heat for it, and it's okay, man. Listen, I'm a Packer homer, so when I say something negative about the Packers or project something that might potentially go wrong during the season, I catch a little heat for it. I get it, man. I'm passionate about my Packers too. But I said, don't expect to be able to turn the ball over the way you did last year. Because, listen, turnovers sometimes are fluky, right? And again, that's why it's so important for the offense to key in on protecting the football. Extra points of contact on the ball so you're not fumbling a lot. Protecting the ball in terms of throwing the ball away when it's not there on the field. Not taking meaningless sacks, right? Like just okay, well, we're up by 10 points. I can take a sack here. No, when you take a sack, you're vulnerable to get strip sacked, right? That's stuff that you gotta think about in advance. You gotta coach that out of players. So outside of the turnovers, though, Chicago, what else do they do really well? Not much.
Take it away from them. They take the football away.
Unintended. I think teams give it to them at times.
But bingo. And again, you can prevent turnovers if you don't throw into coverage. You can prevent turnovers if you protect well and the ball doesn't get batted up in the air. You can prevent turnovers if you're covering the ball up and making sure the ball is in the outside arm when you're running outside of the hashes or even close to the hashes, right? All these things that are fundamentally taught in the game of football, you can prevent turnovers, right? Turnovers aren't something that the defense, it's just because the defense does it well. It's a two-way street. We seen it against the Bears earlier when Jordan Love threw the interception. Now, we ended up winning that game, but when he threw that interception to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, that was just kind of a tweener throw. It's like he started to go down the seam and last second tried to throw underneath and hit right in between, right? It was a bad throw. It was a bad decision. That interception does not happen if he doesn't make that bad decision. Now, same thing. How many times have you seen the Bears get interceptions this year because a pass is thrown and the receiver drops it? It gets tipped up in the air, goes right to the defender. That interception does not happen if the receiver catches the ball and or the quarterback makes a better pass, right? How many times have you seen – I remember in the Eagles game being so frustrated watching the Bears beat the Eagles. They did a tush push, and the DB ran in from the side and grabbed Jalen Hurts' arm and just strips the ball out. Like, if he's protecting the football the way he's supposed to protect the football there, they don't get that turnover. Yes, they're forcing turnovers, but I love what Dan Orlovsky says there because, again, sometimes turnovers are you're being careless with the football too.
But they don't have anything else. There's nothing else that this defense is good at. It's eventually that catches up to you. Like, there's teams that we are watching.
Don't that sound like the Packers last year in the playoffs, guys? Think about that. Had a good year. Man, everything was going great. You get in the playoffs, and then all of a sudden you lose the turnover differential and you lose the ball game. All right? Again, is that ball going to continue to bounce their way? Well, forget the Packers game. They may beat the Packers, right? Are they going to win the Super Bowl, or is that ball going to continuously bounce their way? Because, again, like Dan's saying, if you take the turnovers away, this defense does nothing well.
Watching going into the playoffs, Jacksonville takes the ball away too, but they play good defense, a good, solid defense. Chicago doesn't have that.
Jacksonville
Campanile, right?
can rush, though. It's a difference.
And eventually it catches up to it. Eventually you play a team that there's like Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs. Don't give the ball to this team. Chicago, in games when they don't get multiple takeaways, not just one, multiple, is 2-6 this year. So if Green Bay doesn't give the ball over, one, I don't think Chicago can cover them. They don't have enough people now that Green Bay's healthy with Jaden Reed and Christian Watson, Zach Tom on their offensive line. So they're healthy. Two, and let's be honest, okay? This is not hating. Eventually, in the playoffs, when your offense is inconsistent, and I feel this way about the Broncos as well, people, so don't just make this about Caleb and Chicago. When it's inconsistent, that bites you. There's only so many times over the course of a season when you can play inconsistent offensive football and still hang on to the end of the game miracle. It's just unlikely that is going to be a storyline in the playoffs versus high-end teams that are coached well.
And we talked about it all year, like who did Chicago play? And now you look at the strength of schedule, it's showing the strength of schedule was strong. It's why I don't like to talk about that much. I'm not a big fan of that whole logic. But nonetheless, man, it's just something that's very, very you're playing with fire when that's how you're winning ball games. Now, if you're the rest of your team and the rest of your defense can put it together and kind of get going in the right direction, and you've already capitalized on those, and you play good football, like Dan was saying, Anthony Campanelli's got the Jacksonville Jaguars defense playing excellent football. I mean, excellent defense, right? So that's different. Yeah, you've created turnovers, but you've also got a solid defense backing that up. I think that's absolutely huge. So, again, it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. You win the ball, you win the game, win the turnover differential. You're going to win that football game against the Bears, and vice versa. If they go out and they beat us 2-1 in the turnover differential or 2-0 in turnover differential, they're going to win that ball game. I want to give a shout out to Bill Huber here, who gave us an injury report earlier today. You guys make sure you go click on this article over on X. It's a great write-up. I'm going to dive into a little bit of it here. The thing I want to focus on is 2 starters that are questionable for the Packers here against the Bears on Saturday night. All right. So this is what he said in the article. On the sliding scale that is being questionable, Tom is more questionable than Bullard. Okay. What does that mean? There's less of a chance of Zach Tom playing than Bullard. They're both listed as questionable. I think they'll both be out there personally. He went on to say Bullard, one of the few starters who played a decent number of snaps against the Vikings, sustained a knee injury while making a tackle in the 4th quarter. Quote, I'm straight. I'm looking forward to Saturday. That's it. So it sounds like Bullard is going to be freaking playing on Saturday night. He's trying to nip that in the bud. Any conversation, any talk about him potentially not being out there to play for the Green Bay Packers. While LaFleur said Tom got the day off for rest, that the team's best offensive lineman and one of the best tackles in the NFL didn't practice has to be a bit concerning. Now, there's certain people in certain camps that think this is a good thing. They gave Zach Tom the day off, let him get an extra day of rest, blah, blah, blah. Others are kind of going, did he have a setback? I mean, if he's fully healthy, wouldn't he be out there, right? And I see your super chat, Jason. Thank you so much, boy. We'll hit it. So again, it just depends on which side of the creek you're on right there, right? Tom, who on Thursday said he didn't want to talk about whether the rest day was helpful, injured the knee during the first half of the loss at Denver. He was inactive for the final 3 games of the regular season, including the Week 16 loss at the Bears. So again, we'll see if those guys are going to be ready to go or not. Says while LaFleur at the start of the week said he thought his injured starters would be back in the lineup for Saturday after getting the week off, Tom, after Wednesday's practice, wasn't so sure. Quote, that was the plan. He said, no, I just say it's too early to tell. I've got to see how I'm feeling tomorrow. Tomorrow was Thursday, and Tom didn't practice. And then here's the quote from LaFleur today. Quote, he's looked good in practice. Like I tell you all the time, we'll give him up to game time, and if he can go, he'll be out there. After practice on Wednesday, Tom said he felt better, but not great. He said, ask me after the Super Bowl about needing end-of-season surgery. So he said, I ain't even thinking about it, ain't even talking about it till after the freaking Super Bowl. So again, shout out to Bill Huber for giving us that information, all those quotes within the locker room. One last thing here from Rob Domofsky on Zach Tom, then we'll look at the entire injury report. Actually, let me hit the super chat real quick. Thank you so much, Jason. Jason Watt with the super. He says, the only way we lose this game, in my opinion, is from self-inflicted mistakes. Amen. And you know what's crazy is when you look back on the season, every single game that the Packers lost this year, Jason, you could probably say that, right? I mean, honestly, you could go to each one of those games and you could find 2 or 3 mistakes where it's like, man, if we had not shot ourselves in, I mean, look at the Chicago game, the last one we lost in Chicago, right? It's a perfect example of how, my goodness, did we not, I mean, it was like 5 different things had to go wrong for the Bears to win that at the end, and we screwed the pooch on all 5 of those things, right? So completely agree with that. It does feel like one of those games that, hey, man, as long as you take care of business and you don't, have self-inflicted mistakes like Jason's saying here, you're going to come out on top. Thank you for the super, buddy. Appreciate you. All right. Rob Domofsky said, LaFleur said they're giving right tackle Zach Tom the day off today. Tom has not played since Denver on December 14th. He's looked good in practice, but we'll see. So, again, Rob Domofsky just kind of confirming that report there on Zach Tom. We'll keep our eye on that. And then, of course, as you get into the injury report in its entirety, just to kind of give you guys a quick little snapshot of how this looks. Let me put it up here on the screen. I just kind of listed the questionable players out there. The guys that are pretty much game time decisions, if you will, right, are going to be quarterback Malik Willis, right tackle Zach Tom, safety Javon Bullard, wide receiver Dontavion Wicks, linebacker Nick Neiman, and then defensive lineman Warren Brinson. So in my opinion, I think every one of these players will be active. And I think that Malik Willis will be one of those situations that if Jordan Love goes out of the game and we're not up by a couple scores, I think Malik Willis will play. If you've got a little bit of a lead, I could see them going to Desmond Ridder and then have Malik Willis ready to go if things get bad. If Jordan Love were to come out of the game for some reason and Malik Willis has to go in, if you're tied or losing, you feel really good about what Malik Willis can bring to the table. If the shoulder is completely healthy, I don't think anybody's going to sit here and try to convince us that the shoulder is completely healthy. Of course, we heard from Javon Bullard. He said, I'm playing, I'm going. I don't want to hear anything else, right? So I think we're good to go there with Bull. He'll be out there. Now, can he finish the game? That's going to be the big question, right? In terms of the rest of the injury report, the only thing that changed today was Zach Tom going from limited to did not participate, all right? And again, you've got 5 players that are listed as questionable here going into the Bears matchup. Those are Warren Brinson, Javon Bullard, Nick Neiman, whether it's Neiman or Nyman, whatever. Zach Tom, offensive lineman. Dontavion Wicks with the concussion. I think he's going to be good to go. I think that they'll clear him in concussion protocol. Surely they will. It's been, what feels like a week and a half now, right? So I think we've had plenty of time to get him through concussion protocol. And then, of course, Malik Willis with the shoulder/hammy. The hammy gives me more concern than the shoulder does. But got Emilio joining us now. Emilio, how you doing, Bubba?
Good, Clay. How are you, man?
Yeah, doing good, man. Doing good. Just going over the injury report real quick. Got some information that came out. We'll hit the super chat. Let's hit the super chat with Mike real quick, and then we'll get to that. I want to get your take on the rest of this injury report. Mike with the super says, we keep Jordan clean, and he will cook. We have to be all gas, no brakes. Red zone's crucial. It's so true. So true, Mike. And also, our boy was in-house. Can't think of him right now. Former OC for the Packers that had the gold zone.
Nathaniel Hackett, gold zone.
He's back in the building, ain't he, Emilio? So
he is.
What if all of a sudden Nathaniel Hackett walks back in like that, and then we look up and all of a sudden the gold zone back, the red zone efficiency goes through the roof, sprinkle a little gold on it, right? I completely agree with what Mike's saying here. I swear I think I think Mike is your burner because you always talked about the red zone and how important it is.
And it's not like we weren't crushing at the beginning of the year, right? We've been absolutely killing them. We were second or third in the league going into that Broncos game, and then obviously we saw what happened. But if we can just get back to that, right? You need to be able to convert touchdowns when you get in the red zone, but don't be afraid to try to score outside of the red zone, right? We don't have to have it be a red zone problem where we're not scoring in the red zone if you're scoring at 30, So we can kind of hit some of those big shots. And also I think getting Josh Jacobs, when we were leading in red zone, Josh Jacobs was feeling better, 100%, maybe not, but before the knee crack, before he got that banged up. So then let's get Josh out there, best he's feeling in 6 weeks. And that's all they talk about was, when we're down there, Josh is going to score. I felt the same way. I'm not afraid to hand it to him. I think you got to get back to that, like they've said, do what you're good at, do that 111th offense, defense, whatever, but especially in the red zone.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the super, Mike. Appreciate you, buddy. It's a great point. All right, moving along now to the Chicago Bears side of the injury report. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, we talked about it all week with the concussion, not participating. He wasn't going to clear concussion protocol. He did not, so he is officially listed as out. Questionable is going to be Kyler Gordon, who obviously on the reserve injured list are looking to designate him to return, although they are kind of still holding him back a touch. We'll see if he's good to go. Braxton Jones, offensive lineman with the knee, he's listed as questionable. You've got 2 players that are listed as out. That's the linebacker that I can't ever say his last name. You want to give it a crack there, Emilio?
Negative.
All right. We'll
practice that one or else I would have.
We might get banned from the YouTube algorithm thinking we said something else, right? So, but anyway, they got a linebacker with a concussion. He did not participate. He is out. And then, of course, you've got Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, defensive lineman. He is officially listed as out. The big news here, Emilio, probably don't even really flash to you, but it's DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. DJ Moore with the knee, Rome Odunze with the foot. Both of them full participation. They have no game status. They are going to be good to go. So Chicago, for the first time in a long time, are going to have all their wide receiver weapons out there. You're going to have Luther Burden, DJ Moore, and Rome Odunze on the field, along with that 12 personnel set that they like to run with Cole Kmet and obviously the standout rookie tight end in Colston Loveland. So how do you feel about the Bears side of things, man?
Yeah, the to the wide receiver point, I want to say it was Mike and Wes were talking on their pod. They were saying that Rome is still a little, he's still a little banged up. They might be on more of a snap count, but that he is going to give it a go. And why would they not? He didn't play against the last time we played against them. So you want to get them back. but it's saying like, we didn't have Evan Williams last time we played against them. So we get a little bit healthier in the secondary. They get a little bit healthier on offense. I think we've got a good shot. And, you just got to contain 18, tackle the outside hip inward, force them inside, funnel everything to the middle. And then, we'll go from there. But I think that you get their receivers back, but their offense has been running off of that run game. You got to stop it, keep them under 100, 150 for sure. And I think we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I agree, man. Again, it's going to be one of those things that they're going to look to establish the run. How well can we play the run? Obviously, this defense hasn't been the same since Micah. You kind of built everything around him through the season, and that's the downside to having superstars on your team. It's just like Devontae Adams back in the day, right? You had Devontae Adams out there, and you built your game plan around 80% of the first read, first looks going through Devontae out of the game. Oh, crap, what are we going to do? Now you got to adjust more moving parts. Same thing with Micah. When you're using him inside as a 3-tech against a run on a 4th and 1, right? Or a 3rd and short, whatever. When you're lining him up as the Joker 1 look in a nickel 3-3-5 with a little hybrid approach, when you're highlighting him against maybe a lesser pass blocker in a nickel 4-2-5 and trying to get him isolated on an island, when your whole defense is built around that and you allow Rashawn Gary to just play the run, which is why his sack numbers went down tremendously after Micah started getting showcased and up to date, up to snuff with the defense. Now, what do you do? Which direction do you go in? Right, all those things are going to come into play, and I'm excited to see what we're going to do, man. Again, they got a solid offense, a borderline top 10 offense in Chicago, and their defense is cheeks other than the takeaways. So, if it turns into a shootout, it turns into a shootout. Just make sure you're protecting the football, and let's see if we can get Caleb to turn the ball over a couple times.
Yeah, it was they've only turned the ball over once. They're 2-6 or something like that, or 2-5, whatever their losses are. So it's like, okay, we just got to play a clean game. You can keep everything in front of you. If you have a mistake, fine. How do you respond to that? Because that's going to be big. We can't, you can't let that get to your head. Jordan's been in a couple playoff games. He knows what picks do. I think he's going to play smart. I think he's going to play, throw the ball away, live another down kind of thing. And you got to, stick your head down and go. You got to play the full 60. But they know it. Matt was saying, we can't make this bigger than just a normal game because it's still football. It's still what you played when you were a kid. Same time, same timeouts, same down distance. All that stuff's the same. You're just playing in enemy territory, and to keep playing for the rest of the season. So I think you'll get the best Packers that we've seen, honestly, in probably a month or two out there.
I agree, man. It's gonna be a fun game, dude. We're gonna get to learn a lot about these players that otherwise wouldn't get as much playing time with all these starters being out. Again, the chips are kind of stacked against you. Yeah. I'm seeing more and more people picking the Bears. I'll tell you, I seen a number earlier. I think they said it was like 70% of the public was on the Bears, something like that was one of the later numbers. I want to see what the spread is real quick before we wrap up here. Let me just hop over to PFF. I won't put it on the screen, but let's see where the money is with this. I really want to see where the money is. The Packers are 1-point favorites according to Vegas. All right. However, when it comes to the money, Emilio, here we go. Spread, Packers -1.5. That magic number is 60%, right? If you can get 60% of the public on one side, you got like it's just like a 1 in 5 chance of it actually hitting. That was based off the numbers through 12 weeks of the season. Now, it may have changed since then. I haven't gone back and looked at it, but it's a good little sample size. 67% of the public's money is on the Bears +1.5. That's great news for Packers. So anything else you want to hit on here, man, before we wrap up? I know we got a super, it just came in, but anything else kind of comes to mind?
No, just to that 1.5 on GM Shuffle, they were talking. They were just like, yeah, I'm not touching the spread at all. But they both had Packers on a win just because of where the Bears are at, how they've almost not lucked into the spot, but having those turnovers, you can't count on that every game. They've been able to count on that throughout the regular season. This is a brand new season. What happens if those don't show up? Because the postseason stats are always separated from regular season. Everything's brand new right now. Let's get after it.
Stephanie in the chat said AJ Hawk picked the Packers. That's all that matters, right, Steph? That's all that matters. Now money line money. So winning straight out, right? They said they wouldn't touch the spread, right, on the GM Shuffle. The money line, 61% of the money is on the Bears, according to PFF stats here. Okay. So again, This public is very, very heavy on the Bears. I love that. Absolutely love that setup there. Packer Doug with the super chat said, how does the offense change when we only have 2 tight ends? Do you think they'll elevate Messiah Swinson from the practice squad? I don't know how many they'll keep active. I don't know if they'll keep 2 or 3 active. I imagine with the Bears, and depending on the weather too, right? You'll probably want at least 3 active, right, Emilio, at the tight end position. Do you think they'll activate 4? That's the big question.
I don't think it'll be 4. I think it's got to be 3, but you can also kind of lean on Chris Brooks if you need somebody to, get yourself in a U and a blocking kind of guy. Besides that, I would say 3. But again, you're also a little bit healthier than you were last time you went into the playoffs. You didn't have Christian Watson. You got Jaden Reed. You've got these guys out on the receiver corps that you're probably going to want to try to get the ball to. And sometimes it doesn't, always need to be, big personnel. I guess we'll see if you like the matchup against their DBs with whoever is out. I think you got a shot.
Yeah. So when you look at the tight end position here, according to our lads over at their depth chart projection, Luke Musgrave's tight end number 1. Mm-hmm. Number 2 is Josh Wiley, right? And I love Josh Wiley, man. I think he got a lot of. I mean, he's so valuable to this team. He's been one of those unsung heroes this year. And then on the practice squad, you got Drake Dabney. They've got him listed 1 spot higher than Messiah Swinson. But nonetheless, those are the 2 players, right, that you're looking at potentially elevating. Do you elevate them both? Which would you choose? Would you go with Drake Dabney or would you go with Messiah Swinson if you had to elevate only 1?
I think it'd probably have to be Dabney. But again, you're also kind of thinking on where are these guys going to play in special teams as well, because it's not like you can't fill you got to have somebody to fill those spots out there on those teams. If Nick's coming back, all those different things. I would say Dabney. I almost think that you might not even bring him up and only run 2 tight ends if Matt's feeling it. If he's feeling a little frisky, maybe you only run 2 tight ends. Like I said, use Brooks in some of those U formations if you need to, and go from there.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Packer Doug says, my mistake, didn't see Dabney. Again, I don't think anybody, Doug, I agree with your point. Like Messiah Swinson or Dabney, it's not like one is, way better than the other. They're both kind of in that same regard. Now, Messiah Swinson has had a little more experience, I feel like, with the Packers, or do you think they both spent about the same amount of time here overall? Because they, like I said, hopping in and out of the building.
Yeah, I want to say that I'd say they're kind of split, but you're all right there. It seems like you hear a little bit more of one name one year, a little bit more, the other year, different times. But it's also nice that obviously, again, Goody doing his thing, the scouts doing their thing. We're rotating those guys in, getting another look, but they already know what it's like coming into Green Bay. They already know where they need to be. They've done through this. They've gone through this. They know what the offense is. I would say whoever knows the playbook better at this point would probably be called up.
Yeah, and in terms of what Chicago's defense does well here, obviously scoring defense, they're 23rd in the league, right? But the last 3 games, the number that they got attached there, if you were to just kind of in a very, very casual way, all right, how would that stack up, with the overall, if that was their number on the season, they would be closer to the 15 mark, something like that, right? Yeah. And when you look at their rush defense, opponent yards per rush, their rush defense is 29th in the league, giving up 5 yards a carry. This should be a Josh Jacobs heavy game, action off of that as well, right? And then, of course, passing defense, just to take a quick look here, yards per pass attempt, Chicago's 28th there as well at 7.2. That's what Dan Orlovsky was talking about. Like their defense, the only thing they're good at is taking the ball away, and they are damn good at that. Don't get me wrong, man. When you're talking about takeaways per game, they're still first in the league at 1.9. Jacksonville's right behind them, Houston behind them, Pittsburgh next, and then the LA Rams next. Of course, the Packers, this is where we've kind of swung and missed, although you could look at it like we're due for a flurry of turnovers, right? And the Chicago, maybe all that's kind of worn out by now. Again, we'll find out on Saturday night.
Yeah, weather could play a factor in some of that. You saw what happened with one of Jordan's passes. Kind of you catch a floater and X run it down, Evan run it down, something like that. But no, that's I don't know, man. That's gonna be a good one. It really is. It really is.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. So I'm curious to know what everybody thinks in the comments. If you're watching this video back later, let us know in the comments. How do you feel about this Packers-Bears matchup? Let us know. Tell us, just give us a score prediction too. If you don't want to do a score prediction, just say go Pack go. We appreciate that. We'll probably have some bear down in there as well, and that's okay.
I'll take
everybody,
it.
everybody has a right to be wrong, right? That's just the way it goes. So, Emilio, you got anything else you want to hit before we wrap up, man?
No, I had 20 carries plus for Josh Jacobs, easy. I'd say you almost want a 30-30 game, 30 carries for Josh, 30 passes for Love, and kind of just wiggle it in between, see what happens. But, you always got E. Wilson back there. Thinking to be a little bit of a rotation, but he's Josh has always been that heartbeat for this offense throughout the year with all the injuries on the outside and those kind of issues. I think you just got to go back to it and sort of lean on him. Matt knows it. If he's feeling it, I feel like Matt's going to have that little birdie in his ear. Let's not get away from Josh again if he's feeling the game. Let's lean on him like he wants to. You saw him and he did that for the Raiders. You know what I mean? He can put a whole load on him for the Raiders, but we can't be afraid to use him right now.
Yeah. And the latest weather report in Chicago for Saturday. During the day, snow during the morning will taper off and give way to cloudy skies during the afternoon. High of 37, winds 10 to 20 mile an hour. There's a 90% chance of snow with accumulation around an inch. Then it's saying Saturday night, overcast, low of 24, winds 15 to 25 miles per hour. We heard there could be some gusts as well. So again, that could change in a heartbeat. Right now, it's suggesting most of the snow is going to be pushed out. Also seeing several people on Twitter, that seem to agree. So we're trending towards it just being a cold, cloudy evening in Chicago, right? But you never know, man. That stuff gets swirling out there over that lake, wraps back around, and boom, you got yourself a blizzard. So,
and at least they practice in Lambeau today, right? Get good footing. Got to go through some of the wind and still practicing outside, still all the elements, all that. So
yeah, absolutely. And I despise, like Snow Junkie just said here, winds are going to be annoying, just like the Giants game. I hate wind games, man. I do. Unless there's snow flying, I can deal with it then. But when it's cold and the weather's a factor, I think you do find out who the tougher team is too, And I do feel like we have a tougher team than the Bears. That's just
like I said. Bring 2 Sparkies on the plane with you. We need 2 electricians back there just in case you try to do anything fancy with the seats or anything.
Completely agree, man. Those seats. Hey, listen, if the warmers don't work this time, we know something. Somebody, we fell for the banana in the tailpipe.
Yeah. Come on, banana in the tailpipes. Pick somebody up from Milwaukee on the way down, just on the flight. Grab 2 of the reps or whatever, a couple of tools, and come on down.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that's it. We're out of here. Let us know in the comments what you think about this matchup. Appreciate Jason, Y, Mike, and Packer. Doug, thank y'all so much for the super chats. Appreciate y'all greatly. We'll be back tomorrow. Let's go watch some playoff college football now. Emilio, appreciate you jumping in, man.
Absolutely, Clay.
All right, my name's Clayton. That's Emilio. This is PTA. Go Pack, go.
There we go.
Bye, guys.